I love having my little emotional support caffeinated beverage. Also, look at the little cat with the ray gun. Isn't that adorable? I love that a lot. Hi my friends, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video, where today I'm going to be going through all of the books that I want to read during this fall time. We are getting ready for spooky season and fall time. I personally like to think of right now as fall time, like specifically in August, but at the same time, I know that like fall technically does start in like September-ish time, you know, but like I'm ready for some fall books. Fall reading is one of my favorite times to read books, mostly because of how atmospheric it is, and specifically Halloween is my favorite holiday of all time. I love it. I love it so much. I love Halloween in general. I love all the atmospheric reads. It also helps me get a little bit more into the fantasy genre, which is something that you guys know that I've been wanting to read for a very long time. And over here, I basically have a stack of about 20 books and such. Some of them are on my Kindle, and I'll look at my phone just to make sure that like everything looks good with that. But basically, I'm gonna be going through all the books that I want to read, giving you a little bit of a description and why I want to read it. So without further ado, let's get into the first one. And the first book that I have on my list is actually on my Kindle, but it is called Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zing, or Sing. The cover will be No, it'll be in this part of the screen. I had to remember what video I was filming, but it should be over here and such. And that is by Kylie Lee Baker. And basically what this book follows is it follows a woman named Cora Zung. She is a crime scene cleaner, washing away the remains of brutal murders and suicides in Chinatown. The bloody messes don't bother her, not when she's already witnessed the most horrific thing possible, her sister being pushed in front of a train. Before fleeing the scene, the murderer whispered two words: Bat Eater. Months pass, the killer is never caught, and Cora can barely keep herself together. She pushes away all the feelings, disregards the bite marks that appear on her coffee table, and won't take her aunt's advice to prepare for the Hungry Ghost Festival when the gates of hell open. Cora tries to ignore the rising dread in her stomach, even when she and her weird co-workers begin to find carcasses at their crime scene cleanups, but Cora can't ignore the fact that all of their recent cleanups have been the bodies of East Asian women. Soon Cora will learn you can't ignore hungry ghost. And this is a horror book that I have been seeing for a really long time. It's been on my Kindle Unlimited for maybe about a year and a half or so. It sounds really kind of interesting, mostly because I've been craving other books that are horror, and specifically that aren't Stephen King. Because honestly, you guys know me. I love Stephen King, but sometimes his horror novels can get a little bit of getting used to, and then when you get in it, you're fine. But I've just been a little bit on the tired side and have not really wanted to like take the time to dive deep into it and then like take the roller coaster like through the rest of the actual story itself. Plus, I've heard that this has a lot of good ratings and such, and mostly because I want to try reading more horror novels that aren't Stephen King. I haven't really looked at too many of the reviews, but most people I've seen have either given it like 4 or 5 stars, which I'm like, you know, that sounds actually like pretty good, you know? Plus it also follows like a little bit of like East Asian like history and things like that, and it sounds brutal, but it also sounds kind of like one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I could learn something out of it, and specifically probably a theme related to racism against Asian people, especially Asian women. So I'm very, very curious about that read, at least. Next one I have is in the physical format, and this has been one that has also been on my TBR and has recently been talked about a lot since Taylor Swift's documentary released, and that is God of the Woods? No, The God of the Woods by Liz Morris. This is the Book of the Month version because this was the Lolly winner, if you can see that and such, for 2024. So I was like, might as well. It's got like these like pink sprayed edges. And from what I remember, what this story is about is that there's this teenager that vanishes from this summer camp, and her name is Barbara Van Leer, I believe. She isn't just a 13-year-old just gone missing. She's technically the daughter of the family that owns the camp and employs most of the region's residents. But this isn't the first time that a Van Leer child has disappeared, because 14 years ago, Barbara's older brother disappeared in these same circumstances and was never found. Then as a panic search begins, a thrilling drama unfolds, chasing down the layered mysteries of the Van Leer family and the blue-collar community living and working in its shadows. But yeah, that is what the God, I always want to say God of the Woods. It's the God of the Woods and such, but I've been seeing this popping up around. I've been wanting to try Liz Moore's stuff, and I'm pretty sure, was there a cast announced for this? I could be very wrong. I don't remember too much about it. It's definitely a little bit on the longer side for like a mystery thriller book, like something that you would not expect, you know, with something like this. But also at the same time, I've been kind of craving a little bit of like those mystery vibes where like maybe you get to know the characters a little bit more, and then the story also kind of like adds to like what happens with these characters as well too, you know? And I've heard nothing but good things from this one as well too. It's very, very popular and it's very, very interesting, and I'm really, really, really curious to see how it will go and such, because I was originally going to put this on my 26 books to read in 2026, but I didn't for some reason. I think I just maybe didn't want to put myself to like have too much pressure to read this book. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's another mystery as well too, and that's pretty much all I have to say on The God of the Woods. But this next one that I have is technically on my 26 books to read in 2026, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This book has been blowing up. I know it's been like years since this first book came out, you know. I know season 2 of the show released recently, and mostly I want to read this series so that I can watch the TV show because it has Emma Myers in it. I love her as an actress. She's great in Wednesday, and I'm really excited to see how she will take on this. But pretty much like what this one is about, I'm just going to read the back because I don't remember too much about this one. But this one says, pretty unpopular high school senior Andy Bell was murdered by her boyfriend, Sal Singh, who then killed himself. It was all anyone could talk about, and 5 years later, Pip sees how the tragedy still haunts her town. Now a senior herself, Pip decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project, at first just to cast doubt on the original investigation, but soon she discovers a trail of dark secrets that might actually prove Sal innocent, and the line between past and present begins to blur, and someone in Fairview doesn't want Pip digging around for answers, and now her own life might be in danger. And I'm pretty sure that this is a trilogy because I've seen it a lot whenever I go into the different bookstores. It's always together in that regards, honestly, you know? So the reason why I want to read this is, one, because it just sounds like an interesting story, and I also want to see if I still like the genre of young adult mysteries, because you guys know how much I loved The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. That's one of my favorite series, but I'm also really curious to see if it was just my age when I read it, because I was maybe like 20 years old, I think. I had freshly turned 20, I think, when I first read it, because I read it in the summer of 2024, I believe, when I was first getting back into reading, well before I had this channel. And I'm just honestly just really, really curious to see how this will turn out. You know, like I said, I've heard pretty okay things about it. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I know I'm very, very late to the game, but again, this is mostly just so I can see if I kind of like the genre and if I want to continue reading these books, or if I'm just gonna straight like hop into the TV show itself when finishing this book. So yeah, that is another book that I want to read this fall time. Another book on my TBR that has been like screaming, and I mean screaming at me for me to read, is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This one basically follows at a masquerade ball thrown by her parents. They're at their English country house, Evelyn Hardcastle will die. She will die every day until Aidan Bishop can identify who murdered her and stop the killer. At the beginning of each day, Aidan wakes up at Blackheath House in the body of a different guest of the gala he attended the night before. And some of those guests are more helpful than others. So it basically kind of follows like this like gothic like murder mystery vibes. I believe it's another mystery, maybe more related towards thriller, but I think its first genre is mystery foremost and such. Keep in mind, I got this back when I was a freshman in high school. It is one of the oldest books on my TBR. It's not the complete oldest, but it is one of the oldest books on my TBR because my friend Liz, she recommended that I read this. And did I put this on my 26 books? I don't think I did, but I probably should have because it has been screaming, and I mean screaming at me for me to like read it and such. It has just been haunting my bookshelf, and every time I look at it, I'm just like, what is your story? What is your deal? Am I gonna like you? Am I not gonna like you? I just don't know. And I feel like this is gonna be the perfect time to read it, mostly because fall time, as you guys know, I love reading so many of these like atmospheric books, and I'm hoping that this gives me the atmospheric, like gothic, almost like a Clue vibe type of thing. If you guys know that game, I loved that game as a kid. I loved Clue. I loved trying to figure out who the murderer was and trying to figure out who is being deceptive and such. So I'm really kind of curious to see how this is going to go about. So this is another one that I'm planning and hopefully we'll get to this fall season. This next one that I have is also another book that has been on my TBR for way too long, and that is A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. This one is basically following this girl named Chloe, and when she was 12, 6 teenage girls went missing in her small Louisiana town, and by the end of the summer, her father had confessed to the crimes and was put away for life, leaving Chloe and the rest of her family to grapple with the truth and try to move forward while dealing with the aftermath. Now, 20 years later, Chloe is a psychologist at Baton Rouge and getting ready for her wedding. While she finally has a fragile grasp on the happiness she's worked so hard to achieve, she sometimes feel as out of control of her life as the troubled teens who are her patients. So when a local teenage girl goes missing and then another, that terrifying summer comes crashing back. Is she paranoid, seeing parallels from her past that aren't actually there? Or for the second time in her own life, is Chloe about to unmask a killer? The main reason why I want to read this is because I want to get it off of my TBR. I got it when I was first kind of starting to read and kind of started actively reading again for the first time. And it has just been sitting here staring at me on my shelf. That is it. That is the only reason why I want to read this book. And I mean, of course, the premise sounds very intriguing, like having your father, who's supposedly a serial killer. We shall see if he is an actual serial killer, like figuring out exactly what's going on with that as well too. I'm just really hoping that this isn't like very mediocre and I can see like similar like ties with true crime cases like I did with What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall, because I feel like that this one, it has a lot of potential to just be like, oh, this is so much better and much more of an original concept than like that one was. So I'm really curious about this one and also excited to read this one in this upcoming fall time. Next one that I have is that I'm moving into the dark academia vibes of things, and this one's also on my 26 books to read in 2026, and that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And basically what this follows is, enter the players. There were 7 of us then, 7 bright young things with a wide, precious futures ahead of us. Until that year, we saw no farther than the books in front of our faces. On the day Oliver Marks is released from jail, the man who put him there is waiting at the door. Detective Colborne wants to know the truth, and after 10 years, Oliver is finally ready to tell it. A decade ago, Oliver is one of the 7 young Shakespearean actors at I don't know how you pronounce that first one, but like some type of like conservatory for like Shakespearean actors, a place of keen ambition and fiery competition. In this secluded world of firelight and leather-bound books, Oliver and his friends play the same roles on stage and off. Hero, villain, tyrant, temptress, ingenue, and extra. But in their fourth and final year, good-natured rivals turn ugly, and on opening night, real violence invades the students' world of make-believe. In the morning, the fourth years find themselves facing their own tragedy and their greatest acting challenge yet, convincing the police, each other, and themselves that they are innocent. It sounds very, like I said, Shakespearean in nature and very just like gritty and grimy and so cool. And then again, I was an English major back in college. You guys know this. I have a BA in English and creative writing, focusing on publishing specifically. And while Shakespeare is not my favorite like classical author and like classic like author just in general, I think the way that he writes his stories and the way that he has kind of like shaped the tropes that we have in all of these different like modern books has really kind of like shown what exactly it started off with. So I'm really curious to see what exactly this is going to be. And also, fun fact, this is one of those books where I bought it and then at some point I forgot I bought it because when I was doing like a birthday thing last year, I picked up another copy of this book and I realized and I was like, oh shit, I have 2 copies. So I had to return it. And that was my mom saying, basically being like, this book wants you to like read it, pretty much is what she's trying to say, you know? But yeah, we have this one, which is very much dark academia vibes. Perfect for the fall time. Probably gonna start this when the leaves start falling, and specifically when it's like in like school time, maybe like early, middle of September type of vibes, because that's like, that sounds really good in my personal opinion. So the next book that I have on here is moving into the darker romance of things. You guys know that sometimes I like reading romances during the fall time, but it's not the genre that I always gravitate to. But I will definitely always read a dark like romance or even like dark rom-com in just like this time frame. And this first one that I have on here is, of course, Harvest Season by Brynne Weaver. This one basically follows the events off of the first book, which is Tourist Season, and the premise for Tourist Season is pretty much you're following this girl named Harper. She is basically the keeper of Cape Carnage. She is the one that is kind of like dealing with unruly tourists and making sure that their town is like running well, pretty much. But then enters this dude named Nolan. He knows Harper from something previous that happened in his life, and he wants revenge. He's basically on a revenge story, taking out people who in his life are very responsible for the death of his brother and his recovery from a terrible car accident that they were in. He's killed pretty much everybody on that list but Harper, because he wanted to leave her for last, because she was technically the driver of the car that hit him and his brother, and resulting in his brother dying. But when Nolan and Harper meet, Harper is not anything that Nolan expects him to be, and they kind of have this little like rivalry thing going on, but that needs to be put on hold because an amateur crime sleuth comes to Cape Carnage basically looking for this old serial killer, which I can't remember what the serial killer's name is off the top of my head, but basically trying to follow that. And Harper and Nolan call a temporary truce to their little like rivalry thing that's going on, you know, and then he kind of follows from there. And of course, they kind of start falling for each other. I absolutely loved Tourist Season. I loved the way that it was written, and also the reveals that we got at the end is going to make this book probably hit even harder. But I'm also scared because I've also seen many people who have been reading Harvest Season have been saying that the ending has destroyed them emotionally, and we're not getting the 3rd book until next April. And am I going to be putting myself in agony as I wait for the 3rd book in this trilogy to release? Absolutely. But you know, that is a-okay. You know, we all kind of got to put ourselves in agony for the things we love. And plus, Brynne Weaver, even though I associate her books with very much like summery vibes and such, it really kind of works with the setting of Cape Carnage and the creepiness. I mean, it's called Cape Carnage for a reason. It is like a creepy town in general and very much leans into that creepiness with the touristy vibes of things. So I'm really excited to dive into this second one, and I'm scared, but also very, very excited at the same time. This next book that I have is also on the dark romance side of things, but leaning a little bit more towards the darker side of things, and that is Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. I have heard so many good things about Jennifer's books, and mostly because the ones that I've heard that are really good is like Still Beating, and obviously this one, which is Lotus. So basically what this one follows is, to the rest of the world, he was the little boy who went missing on 4th of July, but to Sydney Neville, he was everything. Her heart hadn't been the same since her best friend disappeared, but she learned to build her life around that missing piece. 22 years later, the last thing Sydney expects is for Oliver Lynch to appear, having been captive underground for decades. He's unfamiliar with the strange new world that awaits him. But he's alive. He's here. And no matter how he's changed, he and Sydney both still feel the connection that runs between them. But as their reborn friendship begins to feel like something more, Sydney and Oliver realize there are still jagged, painful truths creating space between them. The walls Sydney has built don't want to come down, and as Oliver hunts for his missing memories and lost time, he realizes his nightmare is not over yet. With nothing as it seems, is there space for love to bloom in this dark space? That sounds like so much fun. I don't know why, but that just sounds like a really, really fun time for me personally. And like I've said multiple times, I'm not too much of a dark romance girly, but I love Bryn's stuff. I have a couple of others that I have read in the past, like the Never After series by Emily McIntyre. Like, that's fine, but I think I need to be in a specific mood to read those books. And with this one for Jennifer Hartman, I've heard that this one, especially Lotus, is a really good one to get into more of like the darker romantic side of things, you know? Plus it also sounds like almost like one of those things where it's like, it's gonna have happy elements, it's gonna have dark topics, but it's not gonna be completely dark. It's not gonna be like a haunting Adeline situation from what I've heard, where he literally is the one doing bad things to her. And I have a feeling that with this one, it's going to be one of those where like bad things have happened, but the female and male main character will get through it together. So very excited for this one. I think I want to read this maybe either at the end of September, October vibes, when it gets really into spooky season, but we shall see how that goes from there. This next book I have is a dystopia, shocker, but can we guess which dystopia novel it is going to be? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. It's Shatter Me by Tahir Mafi. I think you guys knew that I was going to start reading this series in the fall time, mostly because of the fact that it's very fall coded and such. It is very much one of those beloved series where also I just want to see what exactly is going on and why people like this series so much. But from what I remember is it follows this girl named Juliet. Her touch is fatal, and this thing called the Reestablishment has plans to use her, specifically to use her as a weapon. But Juliet plans to try and escape from the Reestablishment. And after a lifetime without freedom, she finally discovers the strength to fight back for the first time and to find a future with the only boy she thought she'd lost forever. So obviously, I think a lot of people know what this series is about, you know, but I have been wanting to get into this for a really long time. You guys know that I read a lot of dystopia back when I was like growing up as well too. Not really too much, but like the Hunger Games were the ones that really like shaped my mind. And I did read Divergent when I was younger, but I cannot tell you a single thing that happens in that series from what I remember, at least. That one has just like out the window. But with this one, it's very much a young adult fantasy, not fantasy, it's very much a young adult dystopian series that I'm just like, I need to just try it and figure it out, honestly. And I do plan to read this for the channel, but more than likely the videos and like the books will be like split up into multiple parts, because I'm not going to be able to like give you guys like if I do put it all together, it'll probably be like a 2-hour video, honestly. And I don't think y'all want to watch a 2-hour video of that. So yeah, this one is going to be read during this like start of fall season, I guarantee it. If it doesn't even get on any of like my monthly TBRs, it is going to be read no matter what. And then this next book that I have is technically on my Kindle, but it is called The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This is the first book in the Library trilogy, and the synopsis basically goes like this. All books, no matter their binding, will fall to dust. The stories they carry may last longer. They might outlive the paper, the library, even the language in which they were first written. The greatest story can reach the stars. This is the start of an incredible new journey from the international bestseller of Prince of Thorns, in which, though the pen might be mightier than the sword, blood will be spilled and cities burned. Ever has spent his whole life trapped within the vast library, older than empires and larger than cities. Levira has spent hers in a tiny settlement out on the dust, where nightmares stalk and no one goes. The world has never noticed them. That's about the change. As their stories spiral around each other across worlds and time, each will unlock vast secrets about the world and themselves. This is a tale of truth and lies and hearts and the blurring of one into another. That just sounds very, very interesting. I've had this on my Kindle since I got my Kindle, I believe, which is back in like 2024, around the time where like the Prime like deals were happening, and I was just like, feel like I gotta get a Kindle. So I got a Kindle and things like that. And I think I found that when I was first like getting back into reading, like I said, as well too, and like actively like reading a lot of books just in general as well. And yeah, this one just sounds very, very interesting. It's another little bit of a fantasy that's more rounded on like the fantasy more than like the like romantasy elements of things, and it just sounds like so wonderful and so atmospheric as well too. And mostly because I like the fact of when a book takes place in a library. That was really hard for me to get out. But I really like those like settings of like being kind of like met with like these stories, and like basically you're kind of like not really trapped, but you're just like kind of like engulfed with so much knowledge that you try and learn everything you can, but sometimes you always can't. And sometimes I feel like that we need that in our life more than ever. Especially right now, I feel like we just need to always just like take somebody into a library and let them go crazy, and specifically needing to like teach them like the value of learning these stories and learning how to read and like understand things that like things are going on in this lifetime, But yeah, that one's definitely probably going to be read near the beginning, maybe even closer to November time, but we shall see how that goes. And then this next one that I have is also on my Kindle, but it is called The Wren in the Holly Library by K.A. Lindy, I think is how you pronounce her name. This one I've had on my Kindle Unlimited for a long, long, long time. And the book description of this is 13 years ago, monsters emerged from the shadows and plunged Kiersey's world into a cataclysmic war of near total destruction. New York City, she knew so well, collapsed practically overnight. In the wake of that carnage, the monster trinity was created, a truce of sorts. But tonight, Kiersey, a gifted and fearless thief, will break that treaty. She'll enter the Holly Library, not knowing it's the home of a monster. He's charming, quietly alluring, terrifying, but he knows talent when he sees it. It's just a matter of finding her price. Now she's locked into a dangerous bargain with a creature unlike any other. She'll sacrifice her freedom, she'll offer her skills. Together, they'll put their own future at risk, but he's playing a game across centuries, and once she joins in, there will be no escape. That sounds really, really interesting. It's the first in a trilogy called the Oak and Holly cycle. And again, it's another library type of like vibesy thing, and I'm like, That sounds so good. I just have a thing about like knowledge and being in a library setting. I don't know where that came from since I never really read that much when I was a kid. I hated reading so goddamn much. It was just one of those things where I was like, why do I even need to do this? Like, why? And that was mostly because of like dyslexia and things like that. I still struggle with it even now, you know? Sometimes it's a little bit easier to manage, sometimes it's not. And like, there are also a couple parts in this video where they seem very choppy, and it's because it literally just got like twisted in my mind, and I was like, what are the words on this like screen saying type of vibe. The Wren and the Holly Library, that one will probably be read either in the like late September, early October time as well too. I'm gonna try and get that on a monthly TBR, but we'll see how that goes in general, you know? But yeah, that is another fantasy book that I'm crossing my fingers that I will be able to get to, and I hopefully will love, because I also have just been craving fantasies in general, but I don't know really where to start because some of the popular ones are good. A lot of the popular ones, like, I'm just like, no, just no, not my vibes. You know what I mean? I hope you guys know what I mean. Next book that I have is also on my Kindle that I actually got recently via BookBub. Shout out to you. Is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. This one is one where I've seen so many things about it, but I really don't know too much about it. So I'm gonna read the book's description. An orphan since the age of 4, Sion, I think her name is Sion, has always had more to prove than her fellow students. For 20 years, she has devoted every waking moment to the study of magic, fueled by a mad desire to achieve the impossible. To be the first woman ever admitted into high magistry. When she finally claws her way up to the ranks to become a high mage, however, she finds that her challenges have just begun. Her new colleagues will stop at nothing to let her know she is unwelcome, beginning with giving her a janitor instead of a qualified lab assistant. What neither Silka nor her peers realize is that her taciturn assistant was once more than a janitor before he mopped floors for the mages. Thormrol was a nomadic hunter from beyond Tyron's magical barrier. 10 years have passed since he survived the perilous crossing that killed his family. But working for a high mage, he seized the opportunity to finally understand the forces that decimated his tribe, drove him from his homeland to keep the Tarnish and the Tarnish in power. Through their fractious inner relationship, mage and outsider uncover an ancient secret that could change the course of magic forever if it doesn't get them killed first. I don't know how you pronounce her name, has defined her life by the pursuit of truth, but how much is one truth worth with the fate of a civilization in the balance? It's also a standalone as well too, but I have heard so many good things about this book, and you guys know I've been looking for standalone fantasies for a long time, and that just sounds very intriguing and so fun. It's not that long either. It's only like 428 pages according to what Goodreads is telling me right now. It's also leaning a little bit more towards the dark academia vibes, like If We Were Villains as well, but just make it magical, you know? And I'm like, that sounds good, you know? That sounds really good. So that's another one that I'm hoping to get to during this fall time as well. Okay, this next one that I have is actually a little bit of a interesting one because one, I saw this at a bookstore when I was doing a video that's going to be coming out next week. As you guys are going to be seeing this, I'm going to keep it as a little bit of a surprise as well too. But this first one that I had on here that I'm like, ooh, this one looks like a really like good standalone fantasy, mostly because Jamie Folk read it, and I believe she gave it a 5-star, and that was The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. I have heard so many good things about this book. Plus also the sprayed edges are gorgeous, and I mean gorgeous looking. And basically, from what I've seen here, I'm just going to read what this says as well, is in the waning years of the Azliel dynasty, the emperor is dying, the land is consumed by famine, and poetry magic is lost to all except the powerful. Waylin is desperate after the fifth death of a sibling. With her family and village on the brink of starvation, she will do anything to save those she loves, even offers herself as a concubine to the cruel, dissolute heir of the blood-gutted Azalea house. But in a twist of fate, the inner court stands on the knife edge of civil war, with Wei in at the center as the princess chosen to survive. Wei must harden her heart and rely on her wit and become dangerous herself, even if it means learning the art of poetry magic in secret, in a world where women are forbidden to read and wield the most powerful spell of all, a ballad of death and love. Oh, that sounds really, really good. And also this like end page. Look at that. Oh, that looks so gorgeous. Okay, that has just moved up even more into my like reading thing as well too. And again, it's a standalone fantasy as well. I think it's one of those ones where it's really gonna like test me and like learning more about this stuff. And specifically, I've been wanting to get more into diverse authors, not just Black authors, but also East Asian authors as well too, like Indian authors as well too, and just trying to just like learn more about different cultures, because I feel like I am, well, then again, growing up in America, especially in the Midwest, you are very, very sheltered to the atrocities and the histories of things that go on in Asia, especially. Like, I feel like I don't really know too much about Asian culture and Asian history, and I feel like consuming it, like learning a little bit more with these things, like with fantasies related to that, I'm like, that sounds so good. And I'm just like, I need to try this. Like, I need to do it. I know for sure that I need to do it. And I'm just like, yeah, it just needs to happen, you know? So this is one where I think I might also need to audiobook this just to make sure that I can get everything down and good with this. But this is one where, like, if I read it, it may be in a YouTube video, but it may also just be like something that I just take my time with listening/reading as well too. I hope you guys know what I mean by that. But yeah, this is another one where I'm just like, I'm so excited to read. Okay, and this other one that I actually have as well too is kind of leaning a little bit more towards the sci-fi-y things, but is also still considered a fantasy. But that is The Last Contract of Isako by Fonda Lee. I also got this as a recommendation from Jamie Folk. She is one of the people that I always go to whenever I am feeling a fantasy but have no idea what to like pick up, pretty much, you know. And she's a very much fantasy queen, and she loved this book. And basically what this one follows and such is on the merciless planet of Aklo. I don't know, honestly, how you pronounce that. I have such a hard time with pronouncing like lands within the fantasy world. So in this merciful planet where your job determines your worth, legendary swordswoman Isako commands the highest price. But every legend must come to an end. When her longtime client unexpectedly retires, she plans to follow, to walk into, however you say, the planet's frozen wasteland with her head held high and her family enriched by her death. Oh, interesting. But when she's offered a final mission she can't refuse, especially when she realizes who lies at the center, Martin, her last and worst apprentice, who somehow made his way to the top as she's thrust into a world of corporate espionage and shadowy secrets. What she uncovers could forever change humanity's existence among the stars. When I read that, I was like, oh yeah, sign me up. sign me the fuck up. Again, it's another standalone and such, and Jamie really liked this book. It also seems a little bit into the like fantasy sci-fi-y type of stuff. Plus also, I believe Isako is like, she's either in her 40s or she's in her 50s. And another thing that really drew me to this book is the fact that like with books like these where you've got like assassins and sword women and like gun handlers or whatever and such, like they're the best of the best. They're usually like teenagers, maybe early 20s of things where they're figuring out things within the world and they're just kind of like going with it just to go with it, you know, or even just like resisting in their own way as well too. And with this one, Isako, she's an older woman who has been in this business from what I assume have been a really, really long time. So I'm really, really, really curious to see how Fonda Lee writes about that. And yeah, this is one where I'm like, I might need to take my time doing this one as well too. It's also very big and very, very floppy. I never realized how floppy this book is, but also then again, I've seen many of the copies where it is hardback or like this bigger like paperback and such. It's not large print from what I know. It's just how big the book is and how big the publisher made it. But yeah, because it even says like sci-fi at the bottom of it as well too, with Orbit as well. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, that is The Last Contract of Isako. Again, hopefully going to read it maybe in the similar vein of how I do The Poet Empress, but we'll see how that goes. Next one that I have is a one that I had planned to read in a Halloween reading vlog a while back, specifically last year, but I did not get to it in time, and that is Wayward by Emilia Hart. This one basically follows 3 women over the course of 5 different generations. One in 2019, where Kate flees London for Wayward Cottage, inherited from her great aunt she barely remembers, with its tumbling ivy and overgrown garden. The cottage is worlds away from the abusive partner who tormented Kate, and then she begins to suspect that her great aunt had a secret, one that lurks in the bones of the cottage, hidden since the witch hunts of the 17th century. That's one story. And then in 1619, Althena is awaiting trial for the murder of a local farmer who was stampeded to death by his herd. And when she was a girl, her mother taught her their magic, one rooted in the deep knowledge of the natural world. But unusual women have always been deemed dangerous, and as the evidence for witchcraft is set out against Althena, she knows it will take all of her power to maintain her freedom. Then, in 1942, as World War II rages, Violet is trapped in her family's grand crumbling estate. Straitjacketed by societal convention, she longs for the robust education her brother receives, and for her mother, long deceased, who was rumored to have gone mad before her death. The only traces Violet has of her are of a locket bearing the initial W and the word Wayward scratched into the baseboard of her bedroom, weaving together these stories, 3 extraordinary women across 5 different centuries. I have the feeling that it's going to be kind of told in the similar vein of how Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil was told, where you get each of the girls' story and how they kind of like go through their different lifetimes and how it just like magically weaves together like it did in Bury Our Bones, you know? But yeah, I'm excited for this one as well too. I'm pretty sure this is technically her debut novel as well, and I'm excited. It's witchy. You guys know how much I love witchy books in the fall time, so yeah, this is exciting. I'm excited for this one. This next one that I have is one that people are probably going to be screaming at me, being like, you haven't read this? How dare you? But it is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is the first in the Shepherd King duology, and if I read this one, I'll more than likely read the second one as well too. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. But this one basically follows Elizabeth, I believe is how you say her name. She needs more than luck to stay safe in the eerie, mist-locked kingdom of Blunder. She needs a monster. She calls him the Nightmare, an ancient mercurial spirit trapped in her head. He protects her, he keeps her secrets. But nothing comes for free, especially magic. When Elizabeth meets a mysterious highwayman on the forest road, her life takes a drastic turn. Thrust into a world of shadow and deception, she joins a dangerous quest to cure a blunder of the dark magic infecting it. Except the highwayman happens to be the king's own nephew, captain of the most dangerous men in plunder and guilty of high treason. And then it just kind of goes on from there. One thing that really kind of pushed me to want to read this one especially is that it is related to, like, the magic is related to playing cards. And that sounds so cool. Just like your magic system is based on collecting these like playing card things or whatever. And I'm like, sign me up. 100% sign me up. I'd be so curious to read this one. And if I read this one, I'll more than likely read the second one. So maybe you guys will get a video out of this from me with like a let's start, continue, finish a series type of vibe, you know? But yeah, this one is one that I'm just like, I want to read. That's it. This next one that I have is also a Rachel Gillick novel, and that is The Night and the Moth by her as well. This one is the first book in the Stone Water Kingdom. I know that the second book is technically going to be coming out at the top of September, so I'm hoping that I will be able to read this later within the fall season and then get into the second book within the duology as well too. That one is called The Knave and the Moon, I believe, and I'm so excited to read that one as well. And this one basically follows this woman. Her name is Sybil. She has spent about 9 years dreaming and having no dreams at all. Unlike the other Fondling girls who traded a decade of service for a home in the great cathedral, Sybil is a diviner. In her dreams, she receives visions from 6 unearthly figures known as the Omens. From them, she can predict terrible things before they occur, with lords and common folk alike traveling across the Stonewater Kingdom's windswept moors and craggy mountains to learn about their futures by her dreams. Just as she and her sister diviners near the end of their service, a mysterious knight arrives at the cathedral, rude and devilishly handsome. The knight Roderick has no respect for Sybil's visions, but when Sybil's fellow diviners begin to vanish one by one, she has no choice but to seek his help in finding them. For the world outside the cathedral's cloister is wrought with peril. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce that. Only the gods have the answer she's seeking, and as much as she'd rather avoid Roderick's dark eyes and sharp tongue, only a heretic can defeat a god, I think is what that's meaning to say. And again, nothing but just wonderful reviews of The Night and the Moth as well too. And then when The Knave and the Moon comes out, I'll more than likely read these two together, kind of in a similar vein of like One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns as well. But yeah, it sounds witchy as well too. It sounds like a really interesting magic system as well too, you know? And again, just excited to read this one as well. Next book that I have on my list is one where I have read this author before, but I've only read her literary, like, fiction, suspense type of vibes and such, is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I have this in the Book of the Month version when I was, like, first starting out reading and such. It is a behemoth to hold, but pretty much what this one is about is that it takes place in 1828 and it follows this man named Robin Swift who was orphaned by cholera in Canton. He's brought to London by this mysterious professor Lovell. There, Robin trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institution of Translation, also known as Babel. The tower and its students are the world's center for translation and, more importantly, magic. Silverworking, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power as the arcane craft serves the empire's war's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. But knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, he realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermain Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues the unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide. Can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? And I feel like that's going to be very linked to what is going on right now in America specifically as well, because there's a lot of violence and a lot of just like questioning of power and institutions and things like that. And it sounds really good. It's a behemoth, of course, but then again, her fantasy books are kind of always on the behemoth side of things from what I've heard. So yeah, I'm excited for this one as well. Another R.F. Kuang book that I have on my list is her novel that came out last year in 2025, I think it was, and that is Calabasas by her. From what I've heard, like Calabasas was everywhere last year, because it was her first more like romantic-y type of vibe where it was focusing a little bit more on the romance-esque things of that. And basically what this one follows is Alice Law has only ever had one goal: to become one of the brightest minds in the field of magic. She has sacrificed everything to make that reality: her pride, her health, her love life, and most definitely her sanity, all to work with Professor Jacob Grams at Cambridge, the greatest magician in the world. That is, until he dies in a magical accident that could possibly be her fault. Grimes is now in hell, and she's going after him because his recommendation is the key to her future, and he could hold her dreams in his now incorporeal hands. Unfortunately, her rival Peter Murdoch has come to the same conclusion. With nothing but the records of Orpheus and Dante to guide them, bundles of chalk to draw the pentagrams necessary for their spells, and the burning desire to make all the academic trauma mean anything, they set off across hell to save a man they don't even like. But hell is not like the storybooks say. Magic isn't always the answer, and there's something in Alice and Peter's past that could forge them into the perfect allies or lead to their doom. Now that sounds very, very interesting to me personally. I picked this up when it first came out, which is why I have the hardback, and I only picked up the regular version because I wasn't too sure if I was going to like the deluxe version of this book. But I've read only one R.F. Kuang book, and I'm like, I liked it, so I think I might like this one. I might like this one a little bit more than I will Babel, and I know that's saying something, but I'm really curious to read this one and see what this one is about as well too. Main reason why is because I'm just curious to see what her fantasy writing style of things are, and it's just a curious thing just in general, you know? And then the final book that I have on here is one that is actually a fiction book that has been staring at me on my TBR cards since I got it pretty much, and that is Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. This one has again been popping up everywhere. It became really popular last year, and basically what this one follows is Beth and her gentle, kind husband Frank are happily married, though their relationship relies on the past staying buried. But when Beth's brother-in-law shoots a dog going after their sheep, Beth doesn't realize that the gunshot will alter the course of their lives. The dog belonged to none other than Gabriel Wolfe, the man Beth left as a teenager and the man who broke her heart years ago. Gabriel has returned to the village with his young son Leo, a boy who reminds Beth very much of her own son who died a few years earlier in a tragic accident. As Beth is pulled back into Gabriel's life, tensions around the village rise and dangerous secrets and latent jealousies from the past resurface, this time with deadly consequences. Beth is forced to choose between the woman she once was and the woman she has become. It sounds messy. It sounds fun. The only thing I'm a little bit on the hesitant side of things is the dog getting killed. But from what I've heard, it's not that very depicted on the page from what I've heard, you know. I have just seen that like some of like my girly pops that I've been watching on YouTube have loved this book, and I'm like, okay, I just need to read it at this point. Plus also, this is a really good time to like get into the fictiony vibes of things as well too, you know. Even though I feel like you can read literary fiction all the time, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I need to read this sooner rather than later, in my opinion. So yeah, this is going to be the last book that I'm hopefully going to be reading during this fall season. And of course, this is going to be the end of the video. So thank you guys again so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and comment down below. If you don't know what to comment down below, tell me what your favorite genre you like to read is in the fall time. I kind of worded that really badly, but let me know what your favorite genre is to read in the fall time is what I'm trying to say. If you liked me, please make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications. You guys know I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. For specifics on what days I've upload stuff, there will be stuff in the description down below. If you also want to follow me somewhere else on the internet, I have my Fable, my Goodreads, my TikTok, my Instagram, my bookshop.org as well too. Sometimes I'm active on my Pinterest too. It's down there if you want to go check it out as well too, you know? I'm still kind of getting my sea legs with the Patreon, and I might even take that down too. I'm not too sure what I'm feeling with that. It's just a little bit too much right now at this point with what I've got going on, but I will let you know what the fate of the Patreon is going to be in the next couple of videos as well too. And if you want to check out any of these books that I mentioned in this video, there is going to be a list down in the description below, and you can also go to my bookshop.org and type in the books that were directly mentioned in this video as well too. So again, thanks for watching, and I truly hope that you guys have an amazing day, week, month, and year. See you later, friends.